Good morning. It is a pleasure and an honor to kick off the second day of the Brussels leg of this week-long event on disinformation. Let me start by thanking the Atlantic Council, as well as all of the experts who have found time to gather here today. Disinformation cuts across just about every important issue of our time. It threatens democracy, empowers authoritarian regimes, tears at the fabric of society, and darkens the skies of technological innovation. Almost every day seems to bring a new revelation or report. To cite two examples from this side of the ocean, the European Commission is now issuing monthly reports on the actions major online platforms are taking to observe the voluntary code of conduct against disinformation. The UK Parliament Committee on Digital, Culture, Media and Sport just issued a hefty report in February on disinformation and fake news. Many of us have tracked this phenomenon for years, and some of the people in this room were ringing alarm bells long before it made headlines. I would present to this group today, however, that we are at an inflection point. We haven't solved the problem yet, but we are increasingly making progress toward solutions. Let me give a few examples. As I mentioned earlier, and as you all know well, the European Commission Code of Conduct is an excellent step in the right direction. The establishment of centers of excellence in Riga, Tallinn, and Helsinki to study and address aspects of this challenge is also significant. Governments across Europe are taking this fight seriously. The Swedish Civil Contingencies Agency spent the year leading up to Sweden's recent election canvassing the world to find the best approaches to addressing foreign influence in elections. Sweden's election is widely considered to have been resistant to foreign influence. The Czech government invested in its Center Against Terrorism and Hybrid Threats to coordinate a government-wide effort to address disinformation and propaganda. Canada recently announced its own initiative to counter foreign influence. Initiatives are multiplying. Media literacy is part of the high school curriculum in Italy. Technology companies are also undoubtedly doing more, even if many argue it's still not enough. The Global Engagement Center, which I am proud to represent here, is an integral part of this pivot from problems to solutions. Over the last 2 years, we have created teams within our organization to focus specifically on Russia, Iran, and China, in addition to our pre-existing team focused on counterterrorism. We also have an analytics team and a technology engagement team. Just yesterday, our technology engagement team and our partners in the UK government held a tech challenge in Bristol, England, bringing together 7 groups of technologists from the US, UK, Czech Republic, Bulgaria, Italy, and Ukraine to identify new tools to fight disinformation. The Global Engagement Center is focused on 2 core areas. First, understanding the problem. Secondly, enabling solutions. To understand the problem, we have invested in analytics and data science. Without data science, without data that shows which audiences are vulnerable to what propaganda, we can do little more than throw darts at the wall. Data, of course, must also be supplemented by linguistic and cultural expertise. The second area, addressing the problem, as you all know well, is the hard part. This audience is here because we understand that there is no single solution that works across all audiences. But there are common approaches that work across many of our realities. One of these approaches is to not leave an information vacuum that our adversaries can exploit. We must constantly articulate the benefits of our core values and institutions. They are our strength, and we should not be shy about publicly supporting what makes us strong. I would remind everyone that the Global Engagement Center, while unique in that fighting propaganda and disinformation is the entirety of our mission, is itself only a part of what is a much larger overall effort. Within the US government, we benefit from the work of our colleagues in international broadcasting, the Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, Radio Free Asia, El Hurra, and Radio Sawa, as well as the hundreds of public diplomacy professionals in Washington and at our embassies all over the world, who do everything from sponsor exchanges to help with the organization of events like the one we are at today. If I had to sum up the approach of the Global Engagement Center in 2 words, they would be truth and collaboration. If our adversaries have one thing in common, it is a love of lies. Our legal mandate is to spread fact-based narratives, and we see this as a powerful factor in our favor. Our partners are our other not-so-secret weapon. Disinformation is a multifaceted problem, and we will only solve it by working together. No one would argue that we have got this all figured out. All of the factors that have made this problem so acute and so complex are still in play. We remain in an era of renewed great power competition, with aggressive actors like Russia seeking to destabilize and demoralize democratic societies. Trust in institutions continues to fall. Technology is a double-edged sword, and ideological battles that we once thought to have been fought and won are flaring up anew. We know where the flashpoints are. The purveyors of disinformation continue to look at elections as a tempting target. They seek to exploit protest movements and the often legitimate grievances that drive them. And they try to weaponize the genuine disagreements that are the lifeblood of any democracy against the democratic process. Much of our attention and focus has been on Russian interference, but it is important to recognize that the threats we face are much broader and more complex. The Chinese government may not resort to the same crude online tactics, but they too have systematically exploited our cyber vulnerabilities, our tradition of academic and scientific collaboration, and the openness of our societies to steal intellectual property, suppress free speech, and manipulate public opinion. Iran and North Korea have also used cyber and online tools to spread disinformation. Finally, domestic actors in all of our societies have begun to adopt some of the same tactics to misrepresent themselves and spread disinformation for profit or personal and political reasons. The future of our democratic institutions and our free and open societies depends on our collective efforts to better understand and counter disinformation, whatever the origin. I mentioned our partners previously. Let me reinforce that point. We are united in this fight. Our adversaries are largely alone. We are here today to learn how we can work together to address this modern scourge. We have an outstanding program ahead of us today that deals with precisely these issues. We have presentations and discussions of bots, trolls, algorithms and deep fakes, the pros and cons of regulation, and the role of the media in an age of disinformation. I cannot stress enough how much we at the Global Engagement Center value the insights and efforts of the community represented in this room. I look forward to engaging with you today, and we look forward to working with you in the future as we defend our democracies and our societies. Thank you.